Good morning. The aircraft carrier is probably the most important tool Western militaries have to project combat power outside their borders. The U.S. Navy has 11 aircraft carriers, which is more than anyone else. Aircraft carriers obviously cost a fortune to build and then to operate. Then all the planes parked on their decks cost tens of millions of dollars apiece, and usually hundreds of millions of dollars. On top of that, carriers need a large group of smaller ships for support and defense. Planners for the Chinese Navy decided to go another way and began development of drone carriers in the past decade. Drones are far less expensive, and they don't need human beings in the cockpit to fly them. And China at the time was already locking down the supply chains to build drones of all kinds. So this was an industry that China already enjoyed big advantages in commercial drones. And because the supply chains for drones ran through China anyhow, then whatever China did on the military side would be unchallenged by other countries unless they developed the entire drone industries from scratch. Back to the Navy though. China's breakthroughs in drone technologies are upending the logic that underpins the U.S. Navy's reliance on aircraft carriers as an instrument of power projection. The Chinese Navy is building its drone fleets, and they will have a lot more of them at far lower cost, and that translates to more strike power than what the U.S. Navy can move around in our aircraft carrier battle groups. Last year, China launched the world's first drone carrier. It's designed to carry up to 100 drones, including kamikaze drones. Right away, this is a radical departure, a huge difference between the tactics of the American and the Chinese navies. The loss of any aircraft sitting on the deck of the Gerald Ford, for example, also represents the loss of a highly trained flight crew. By contrast, the loss of a Chinese kamikaze drone means a successful engagement from their point of view, and it requires a new way of looking at any conflict on the sea from now on. So that was already a game changer, having a bunch of these drone carriers operating on the open ocean. But new technology may have just rendered even those obsolete. Chinese engineers from Beihang University in Beijing have built a powerful vertical takeoff and landing jet drone. It requires no crew and can be launched by ordinary ships, even on rough seas. They potentially transform every Chinese destroyer, frigate, or amphibious vessel into a small aircraft carrier. The engineering challenges were high. Vertical takeoff aircraft sacrifice many of the efficiencies that regular planes have when they have a long runway to use, and they can't get around some of those. Here are several paragraphs that explain how the new drones work. In flight, you cannot tell the difference between these drones and a drone that takes off with a runway. It was designed expressly for the new strategy by the Chinese Navy to build aircraft for non-carrier ships. They want to use carefully coordinated groups of drones taking off from multiple ships and conducting operations. They are affordable, low cost, and use the advanced composite materials and technologies that China has a hard export ban on. Here is what it all means. Drones used by Chinese naval forces can be launched from anywhere. That allows for 24/7 coverage of huge areas of ocean. Every surface combatant is a forward operating base. The enemy can't predict where the next strike will come from. I can add something here which is certain to generate a lot of angry replies in the comments section, which is that these Chinese drones aren't necessarily limited to major surface combatants. The Ukrainians recently launched Operation Spiderweb, using civilian trucks to haul drones close to targets in Russia and then launch them. That operation was celebrated in the West and likely was even assisted by Western intelligence agencies. So that is a line that is already crossed. If civilian commercial assets can be used to transport drones, which then conduct offensive wartime missions, then these Chinese drones don't need the deck of a destroyer or a frigate. Any really big ship will do, and China has a lot of really big ships, and they already go everywhere. This final paragraph here is true, and it's bad news enough for US and NATO forces operating in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. But we have kicked down the door in international law, the rules of war, with respect to where military drones can be launched from. So these technologies extend China's reach to anywhere any Chinese ship goes. This is Hukou Waterfall in Shanxi. Be good. With all your heart, and all your soul, and all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Pray for those who hurt you. Love your enemies. Do unto others as you want others to do for you. Store up for yourself treasure in heaven,